Harper Lane didn't mean to summon a monster. She only meant to forget her day. But the half-empty bottle of cheap whiskey on her kitchen counter didn't care. Neither did the cold Manhattan wind rattling her 7th-floor window, or the stack of unpaid medical bills mocking her from the table. At 1:14 a.m., Harper did something she never did. She stopped pretending she was fine. Her vision blurred as she unlocked her phone. One contact, unknown, sat pinned at the top of her messages. She didn't remember saving it, didn't remember why it mattered, only that it had lived there for months like an unfinished thought. In her loneliness, her shaking fingers typed out everything she had swallowed for years. I can't do this anymore. They cornered me again. I think they know what I saw. I wish someone cared. I wish someone would come. She didn't check the message. She didn't read it twice. She just hit send. The sound of the whoosh felt like a gunshot. Harper froze, staring at her phone as if the message might claw its way back. Shame burned through her drunken fog. She threw the phone face down and stumbled toward the sink, splashing cold water on her face. Her reflection stared back. Tired eyes, trembling lips. A woman who had been quiet too long. A knock shook the door. Not a polite knock. A heavy, echoing, deliberate knock. The kind meant to be obeyed. Harper's pulse lurched. No one visited her this late. No one knew her address except her boss, her landlord, and her best friend Maya, none of whom knocked like that. Another knock, harder. She backed away, nearly tripping over a cardboard Amazon box on the floor. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands just as it lit up with a text from the same unknown number she had messaged minutes earlier. Harper, open the door now. Her breath caught. She didn't know the voice behind the words, but her body reacted like prey hearing a predator. Her fingers hovered over the emergency call button. She didn't move. The hallway outside went silent. Then, footsteps. Slow, heavy, certain. Harper's whisper cracked in the empty apartment. Please, not tonight. A shadow moved under the doorframe. A man's voice, a deep, controlled voice, spoke through the wood. Harper Lane, you texted me you were in danger. I came. Her knees weakened because she finally remembered where she had heard that voice, once, years ago, on a night she had spent years trying to forget. The voice belonged to Damian Morello, the most dangerous man in New York, and he had come for her. The doorknob turned. Harper Lane had spent her whole life trying not to be seen. Years of surviving a violent father had taught her one rule: silence is safer than attention. Even now, at 28, working as an assistant at a high-rise investment firm in Midtown, she moved through hallways like a shadow, efficient, invisible, forgettable. Her coworkers barely looked up when she passed. Her boss, Elliot Crane, only noticed her when he needed someone to blame. Her days were a loop of impossible deadlines, clipped instructions, and the constant weight of fear pressing behind her ribs. Harper carried it quietly, the same way she carried the responsibility of caring for her injured younger brother. His medical bills stacked in a drawer she never opened unless she had to. She skipped meals. She worked late. She never complained. She told herself this was adulthood. This was survival. This was normal. But nothing about Harper's life felt normal anymore. The day before she sent that drunk message, Elliot had humiliated her in front of an entire conference room. She had made a minor mistake, one he set her up for, and he used it to tear into her with a smile. His hand had gripped her shoulder too tightly when he leaned in to whisper, "People like you should be grateful to even be in the room." She had gone home shaking, and that night she had done something she never did. She let herself feel the loneliness she always swallowed. Harper wasn't weak. She wasn't fragile. She had survived things most people couldn't imagine. But surviving and living were not the same, and lately she felt like she was disappearing inside her own body. Which was why that message, the one she didn't even remember typing, terrified her more than the knock on the door. It exposed too much. It sounded like a cry for help from a woman who no longer recognized herself. Yet as Damien Morello's footsteps stopped outside her apartment, Harper realized something else. For the first time in years, someone had come. Her breath trembled, because in her world, nobody came without wanting something in return. And Damien Morello was the last man alive she could afford to owe. Damien Morello wasn't a man who came when called. People didn't summon him, they survived him. Yet the moment Harper's message appeared on his encrypted phone, he stopped mid-meeting, mid-sentence, mid-breath. His men watched in stunned silence as he stood from the long mahogany table, slipped on his black coat, and walked out of the penthouse office overlooking the Manhattan skyline. No one questioned him. No one dared. Damien ruled his world with precision, cold, silent, absolute. The Morello organization answered to him the way a pulse answers to a heartbeat. He had built his empire on discipline, not chaos, control, not emotion. Emotions were weaknesses. Attachment was a weapon. And he had promised himself long ago that he would never again care enough to bleed. But Harper's message, "I think they know what I saw." It was the exact phrase his men used when they were about to be eliminated. And the part that followed, "I wish someone would come." That part didn't belong in the mouth of a stranger. He remembered that voice. 3 years ago, a back alley behind a hotel, a terrified young woman pressed against the wall, a man twice her size grabbing her wrist. Damien stepped in, ended it in 10 seconds, and disappeared before she could ask who he was. She never saw his face, but he saw hers. Quiet fear, quiet strength, quiet heartbreak. He never forgot it. Harper Lane. He'd spent months pretending he didn't recognize the name saved in his phone. Months pretending he didn't check on her from the shadows, making sure she never crossed paths with danger again. She was meant to stay untouched by his world, a silent promise he never intended to break, until her message shattered that promise. Within 20 minutes, Damien's black Mercedes stopped in front of her apartment building. His security tried to follow, but he raised one hand, stopping them. "I go alone." "Boss, that's not protocol." "It is tonight." He climbed the stairwell instead of using the elevator. Quicker, quieter, deadlier. Each step fueled by something he wouldn't name, something dangerously close to fear. When he reached her door and heard the tremble in her breathing through the wood, something inside him shifted. This wasn't business. This wasn't obligation. This was personal. And Damien Morello had no idea that saving Harper tonight would be the one decision that destroyed everything he thought he controlled. The hallway outside Harper's apartment looked nothing like the world Damien Morello came from. Faded carpet, flickering ceiling light, a stack of Amazon boxes leaning against a neighbor's door. This was a building people passed without seeing. Too ordinary, too quiet, too forgotten. But tonight, it felt like the center of two colliding universes. Harper's trembling voice came through the closed door. "Please, go away." Damien exhaled slowly. Even her fear sounded soft. "Harper," he said, standing mere inches from the wood, "I don't leave until I know you're safe." Silence stretched. Inside, Harper pressed her back to the door, heart pounding. She knew his voice. She couldn't understand why, but something about it ignited an old memory, the kind she avoided, the kind tied to danger she never wanted to relive. Her tiny apartment behind her was a mix of exhaustion and survival. A worn couch, a tiny kitchen with a half-empty Starbucks cup on the counter, medical bills spread across the table, her brother's wheelchair tucked beside the wall. Her world wasn't meant to touch his, but it already had. Damien glanced down the hallway. His instincts, honed by years of violence and betrayal, felt the shift in the air. Someone had been here recently. Someone who shouldn't. A scuff mark on the wall. A faint chemical scent near the stairwell. He tensed. "Harper," he said again, "open the door." When she didn't answer, his voice softened into something dangerously close to gentle. I promise you, no one will hurt you while I'm standing here. Her breath hitched. No one had promised her safety since she was a child. With shaking fingers, Harper unlocked the door. It opened only a few inches, the chain still latched. Damien saw just her eyes, wide, scared, searching. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I'm here because you called me. I didn't mean to. Doesn't matter. He leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. What happened tonight? Harper swallowed hard. I think someone followed me home. His blood stilled. Who? I don't know, but Elliot was angry today, really angry, and I found something in my bag I didn't put there. Damien's expression changed instantly. What did you find? He asked. Harper hesitated, then slipped her hand through the narrow gap in the doorway. In her palm lay a small flash drive, plain, unmarked. Nothing about it looked dangerous, but Damien knew better. His jaw tightened as he stared at it, because he had seen that exact model before. And the last time he did, someone ended up dead. Damien didn't touch the flash drive at first. He simply stared at it in Harper's trembling hand, every instinct sharpening like a blade. Ordinary people didn't find devices like this in their bags by accident. This model, small, matte, unmarked, was used by criminal networks who didn't leave fingerprints or witnesses. Who put this in your bag? He asked quietly. I don't know, Harper whispered. I didn't even see it until I got home. Did anyone come near you? Anyone suspicious? Harper swallowed. My boss, Elliot. He asked me to drop off documents at his office before I left. He was acting strange. He wouldn't look me in the eye. Damien exhaled a curse under his breath. Elliot Crane. He knew the name. Everyone in Manhattan's undercurrent did. A man who pretended to play clean in the daylight while trafficking information at night. Damien finally took the flash drive, slipping it into the inside pocket of his coat. If this is what I think it is, you're not safe here. Harper stiffened. I can't just leave my apartment. My brother... We'll deal with that, Damien cut in. But tonight, you don't stay alone. Before she could respond, a sharp metallic clatter echoed from the stairwell. Both froze. Damien turned instantly, every muscle locking into alertness. Harper flinched, but followed his gaze. Someone else was in the building. Someone who didn't want to be heard. Back up, Damien murmured, stepping forward. Stay behind the door. Harper did, heart hammering as Damien moved toward the stairs with a fluid, predatory calm. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He simply walked, like a man who had hunted in hallways darker than this one. Then, suddenly, a door slammed below. Fast footsteps thundered downward, disappearing into the building's exit. Damien stopped at the top of the stairwell, jaw flexing. Whoever had been there knew how to run, and more importantly, they knew how to listen. He returned to Harper, his expression colder now. Someone was watching your door. Harper's breath caught. Why? What do they want from me? Damien looked at her for a long moment. Because, Harper, he said softly, you're holding something very valuable, something men are willing to kill for. Her knees weakened. Then give it to them, she whispered. I can't. His voice dropped. Not until I know what's on it, and not until I know who put you in the middle. Harper stared at him, terror flooding her chest. What happens now? Damien stepped into her apartment, eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. Now, he said, closing the door behind him, we find out what they expect you to die for. Damien closed the door behind them, sealing Harper's small apartment from the world outside. But the moment the lock clicked, Harper felt something inside her crack, quietly, painfully, like a bone breaking under too much strain. What do they want from me? She whispered again, but this time her voice wasn't steady. It trembled like a child's. Damien scanned the apartment with the precision of a hunter. The peeling wallpaper, the second-hand furniture, the wheelchair folded beside the couch. All of it told him a story Harper never volunteered. Survival, sacrifice, exhaustion carved into the corners of her life. Harper, he turned back to her, sit down. I'm fine. You're shaking." "I said I'm fine." She wasn't. She hadn't been fine in years. Harper sank onto the edge of the couch, burying her face in her hands. Her breaths came fast, shallow, panicked. The weight of everything, Elliot's threats, the mysterious flash drive, the stranger in the stairwell, Damien's sudden arrival, pressed down all at once. Her world had been fragile, held together by routine and silence. Now it was cracking open. Damien watched her, jaw tense. He had seen people break before. He had caused it. But watching Harper unravel felt different, wrong, unacceptable. "Harper," he said, softer now, kneeling in front of her. "Look at me." She didn't. "Harper." When she finally lifted her head, tears streaked her cheeks. Not dramatic tears, not loud, just quiet, exhausted defeat. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I can't fight people I don't even understand. I can barely keep my job. I can barely take care of my brother. Why would anyone come after me? I'm nobody." Damien's gaze sharpened, not with anger, but something far more dangerous. "Don't ever say that again." She blinked. "What?" "You're not nobody." His voice was low, controlled, almost rough. "People don't risk planting evidence on nobodies. People don't follow nobody's home. Someone chose you for a reason, and I'm going to find out why." "But what if it's my fault?" Harper whispered. "What if I did something wrong?" "You didn't," Damien said firmly. "Someone is trying to use you, and I don't let anyone use what's mine." Harper froze. What do you mean, yours?" Damien didn't answer. Instead, he stood and pulled the flash drive from his coat. "We're going to plug this into your laptop," he said, "and we're going to see what they wanted you to carry." Harper's heart dropped. "Damien, what if it's something terrible?" His eyes met hers. "It is." He walked toward her small desk and opened her laptop. "The question is," he said, inserting the drive, "how terrible?" Harper watched from the couch as Damien inserted the flash drive into her old MacBook Air. For a moment, nothing happened, just the hum of the laptop and the sound of her own heartbeat thudding in her ears. Then the screen flickered, glitching once, twice, before a hidden folder appeared. "Unauthorized access detected." Damien's jaw tightened. "Encrypted," he murmured, fingers flying over the keyboard with the ease of someone accustomed to unlocking secrets people killed to hide. Harper hugged her arms, shivering. "What if we're not supposed to see this?" "That's exactly why we're opening it." A progress bar flashed across the screen. 12%, 37%, 89%. The room felt smaller with every second. When the folder finally opened, Harper gasped. Inside were financial ledgers, cold, precise, horrifying. Transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts. Millions moved in patterns she couldn't understand, but Damien recognized instantly. "This is a laundering system," he said quietly, "a sophisticated one." Harper clasped her hands. "Why would this be in my bag?" Damien clicked another file. It opened into surveillance footage, grainy clips of back rooms, docks, hotel corridors. Some showed men exchanging envelopes. Others showed faces Harper didn't recognize. Until one clip froze her in place. A conference room at her office. Her boss, Elliot Crane, shaking hands with a man Harper knew from the news. A man connected to a violent criminal network. Elliot leaned in, said something, passed a folder. The camera angle shifted just enough to show the papers inside, the same documents Harper delivered that afternoon. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He used me." "No," Damien's voice hardened. "He framed you." The final file loaded, an email draft, unsaved, untitled, but clear. "If Lane becomes a liability, remove her. Make it look like a robbery. The brother can be handled separately." Harper shot to her feet, knees trembling. No, he wouldn't." "He already did." Damien stood slowly, his eyes darker than she had ever seen. "That man is planning to kill you." Her breath broke on a sob. "Why me? I didn't do anything." "You existed in the wrong place," Damien said, "and you trusted the wrong man." Harper backed away until she hit the wall, shaking uncontrollably. Damien stepped toward her, not touching, but close enough that she felt the force of him. "Harper," he said quietly, "listen to me. You're in the middle of a war you didn't start." She lifted her trembling gaze. "Then what do I do?" Damien reached out and gently lifted her chin. "You let me protect you." He hesitated. "Even if it costs blood." A loud crash thundered from the hallway, right outside her door. The crash outside Harper's door was not an accident, not a neighbor, not a dropped package, not New York noise. It was the sound of force, intent, a warning. Harper froze, every muscle locking as if her body remembered danger long before her mind processed it. Damien moved instantly. One hand reached behind him, under his coat, retrieving a matte black weapon Harper had never seen before, silent, compact, lethal. "Get behind me," he said. She obeyed without question. Another slam rattled the hallway. Someone was testing the doors, counting apartments, getting closer. Damien's voice dropped to a murmur. "They came faster than I expected." "Who?" Harper whispered. "The kind of men who don't leave witnesses." Her stomach dropped. Damien grabbed her wrist, not hard, but firm, grounding. He scanned the apartment, eyes landing on the small fire escape window in the kitchen. "We're not using the front door." Harper's breath caught. "Damien, we're 7 floors up." "Good," he said, already pulling her toward it. "They won't expect it." He slid the window open, cold December air slicing through the room. Car horns, distant sirens, and the heavy pulse of Manhattan rolled in. Below them, the alley was dark, narrow, dangerous. Harper's legs trembled. I can't climb that." "You don't need to." He stepped out first, boots landing silently on the metal grate. Then he reached back into the apartment, hands extended. "Come here." "I'm scared." "You should be," he said. "But fear is not what kills you tonight. Hesitation is." Harper inhaled shakily and placed her hands in his. Damien pulled her through the window with controlled strength, steadying her as the fire escape trembled slightly beneath their weight. Inside the apartment, footsteps approached, slow, certain, hunting. Damien lowered his voice. "Stay close. Don't look down." They descended quickly, their breaths fogging the night air. Harper clung to the rail, following Damien's movements. Her heart pounded so loudly she barely heard the apartment door above them splinter open. Then, a gunshot exploded through the window they had just escaped from, glass raining onto the fire escape. Harper gasped. Damien yanked her against him, shielding her with his body. "They know where we are," she whispered. "They won't get close enough," he answered. But as they reached the 3rd-floor landing, the alley below erupted with movement, shadows shifting, figures emerging from behind dumpsters. Harper's fingers dug into Damien's coat. "There are more down there." "Yes," Damien said, eyes narrowing. "We're surrounded." Her breath broke. "Then what do we do?" Damien stepped in front of her, blocking her view of the alley as he reached for a second weapon inside his coat. "We go through them." And with terrifying calm, he whispered, "Stay behind me and don't scream." The fire escape rattled beneath Harper's feet as Damien positioned himself between her and the alley below. Shadows moved with intention. 3 men, maybe 4, quiet, coordinated, and armed. Their silhouettes blended with the darkness, but their purpose didn't. They were here for her. Damien raised his weapon with terrifying calm. "When I say move, you move. Not before." Harper nodded, her breath shaking in the cold night air. A voice rose from below. "Morello, hand the girl over." Harper's heart lurched. The man laughed. "Come on, she's not worth dying for." Damien's answer was a single, unhesitating shot that struck the metal pipe inches from the man's ear. Sparks flew. "She is now," Damien growled. The men below scattered for cover. Damien grabbed Harper's arm and guided her down the last 2 flights of the fire escape. But as they reached the ground, a figure lunged out from behind a dumpster, swinging a metal rod aimed at Harper's head. She froze. Damien didn't. He intercepted the blow with his forearm, shoved the attacker against the brick wall, and pinned him with brutal efficiency. The rod clattered to the ground. Harper stared, breathless. Damien wasn't fighting like a man defending himself. He was fighting like a man protecting something he could not afford to lose. More footsteps pounded from the far end of the alley. Too many. Damien grabbed Harper by the waist and pulled her behind a parked Toyota. "Stay low." Gunshots erupted, bullets slicing through the cold air. Harper pressed her hands over her ears, trembling, while Damien returned fire with controlled precision, each shot measured, purposeful. A man tried to flank them from the right. Damien saw him first. He shifted, shielded Harper with his body, and fired again. The man fell. Harper's breath shook as she whispered, "Why are they doing this? Why me?" Damien didn't look away from the alley. "Because Elliot Crane wants you erased." "But why? I didn't do anything." "He thinks you saw his deals. He thinks you know too much." "But I don't." "You do now." Damien scanned the alley. The men were regrouping, closing in from both ends like a tightening noose. Too many angles, too narrow a space, too much danger. Then Damian saw it. A side door half hidden by trash bags, metal rusted but still intact. Their only chance. He grabbed Harper's hand. "Run!" They sprinted toward the door as bullets tore into the walls around them. Damian kicked the door open, shoving Harper through first. The metal slammed shut behind them just as footsteps thundered closer. Harper gasped in the darkness. Did we lose them? Damian pressed his ear to the door, listening. "No," he said. "They're coming in from the other side." The metal door slammed behind them, plunging Harper and Damian into near darkness. The space smelled of dust, oil, and old concrete, an abandoned maintenance corridor beneath the building. A single flickering bulb buzzed overhead, casting a weak circle of light that barely touched the walls. Harper gripped her chest, breaths sharp and shallow. "Damien, where are we?" "A service tunnel," he said, scanning the dark with quick, assessing eyes. "Old buildings like this connect to the next block. If we stay ahead of them, we can get out." "But you said they're coming from the other side." "They are," Damien's jaw flexed, "which means someone tipped them off about this exit." Harper's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" "It means," he said quietly, "we're not dealing with street-level hitters. Someone higher up wants you gone. Someone who knows this layout." Her pulse thundered. "Elliot?" Damien didn't answer. He didn't have to. A heavy thud echoed above them, then another. Dust rained from the ceiling. They weren't just being followed, they were being boxed in. Damien grabbed Harper's wrist and guided her deeper into the corridor. His pace was fast, controlled, but she could feel his urgency, the tension in his grip, the calculation in every step. They reached a fork in the tunnel, left in darkness, right lit faintly by a red emergency bulb. Harper pointed. "That way, right?" "No," Damien said immediately. "Too obvious." She swallowed. "So left?" "Yes, but stay behind me." They moved into the unlit passage, shadows swallowing them whole. Harper's breaths echoed off the concrete walls, mixing with the faint hum of distant machinery. Then, a voice crackled through the darkness behind them. "Well, well, Morello." Harper froze. Damien pushed her gently behind his back, weapon raised. A second voice, smooth, taunting, joined the first. "You should have stayed out of corporate business. The girl doesn't belong to you." Harper felt cold seep into her bones. Men were close. Too close to run, too close to hide. Damian's voice was steady. "You're making a mistake." A laugh answered him. "Funny, that's exactly what your girl said before she handed us everything we needed." Harper stiffened. "That's a lie. I didn't—" "Oh, you didn't give us the drive, sweetheart," the man said. "You just delivered the right documents to the right desk. You were the perfect little pawn." Harper felt her knees weaken. Damian's breath hardened. "You shouldn't have said that." The darkness shifted, footsteps closing in. Damian leaned toward Harper and whispered, "When I say run, you run. You don't look back." "Damian, do you trust me?" Her voice broke. "Yes." He tightened his hand around hers. "Good." "Run." Harper didn't think, She ran. Her feet pounded against the cold concrete floor of the tunnel, breath slicing her throat as the darkness blurred around her. Behind her, gunshots ripped through the corridor, sharp, metallic cracks that echoed like thunder underground. Damien's voice followed, fierce and commanding. "Keep going, Harper." She stumbled forward, hands brushing the damp walls for balance. Every instinct screamed at her to curl into a ball and wait for it to end. But tonight, something inside her shifted. Fear was no longer a cage. It was fuel. Up ahead, a faint emergency light glowed red against a metal door. Harper lunged toward it, shoved her weight against the rusted handle, and burst into a maintenance storage room cluttered with old tools and paint cans. Breathing hard, she slammed the door shut and braced herself against it. Damien wasn't behind her. Her heart seized. "Damien?" A muffled shout answered. "Harper, lock the door!" She fumbled for the latch just as a body slammed from the other side. The impact knocked her backward, sending paint cans rolling across the floor. Harper scrambled up, eyes scanning the room for something, anything she could use. A metal wrench glinted on a shelf. Footsteps approached fast. Harper grabbed the wrench with shaking hands and stepped behind a shelving unit, forcing herself to breathe silently. The handle turned. The door creaked open. A man stepped inside, gun drawn. Harper's pulse roared in her ears. If she didn't move now, she wouldn't get another chance. She raised the wrench, too high, too clumsy, too desperate, and swung. The blow connected with the man's wrist. His gun clattered to the ground. He cursed and lunged, but Harper darted toward the weapon, sliding across the concrete floor. She grabbed it, too heavy, too cold, and pointed it with trembling arms. "Don't," she warned, voice shaking. The man froze, stunned. Harper didn't look like someone who held guns. She didn't look like someone who fought back. She didn't look like someone who survived. But she did. "Put your hands up," she said. The man raised them slowly. For a split second, Harper felt something strange. Control. Power. The ability to choose her fate instead of letting others choose it for her. Then another shadow filled the doorway. Damien. His eyes flicked from the disarmed man to Harper holding the gun. Pride, raw and dangerous, flashed across his face. "You did good," he said. But before Harper could lower the weapon, Damien's expression changed. His shoulders tensed. His hand dropped to his sidearm. "Harper," he murmured, "there's someone else in the room." Harper tightened her grip on the gun, pulse hammering in her ears. Damien's warning froze her blood. She turned slowly, every nerve bracing for another attacker. But the figure stepping from behind the shelves wasn't a man. It was a woman. Her hair tied back, her expression unreadable, her hands raised in a calm surrender. Harper blinked. Maya? Her best friend, her only friend, stood in the dim light wearing black tactical fabric instead of her usual barista apron. The look on her face wasn't fear, it was exhaustion, resignation, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Damien's eyes hardened instantly. "I knew it." Harper shook her head, confused. "Maya, what are you doing here?" Maya didn't answer right away. Her eyes flicked to the man Harper had disarmed, still frozen, still wary, and then to Damien, who stood ready to fire. Finally, she sighed. "I wasn't supposed to let it go this far," Maya said quietly. "But you weren't supposed to be the target, Harper. None of this was meant to touch you." Harper staggered back, wrench clattering to the floor. "What are you talking about? How do you know Damien? Why are you dressed like that? Did you follow us?" Maya lifted her hands higher. "I worked with Damien years ago, before you and I became friends. I left that life." Damien's jaw flexed. "You didn't leave. You disappeared." Maya winced. For a reason. Harper felt the ground tilt under her feet. "Maya, were you spying on me?" "No!" Maya stepped forward, then froze when Damien cocked his weapon. "Harper, listen, I wasn't spying on you. I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" Harper whispered. "Is that what you call this?" Maya swallowed hard, guilt tightening her features. "I didn't know Elliot Crane was involved, I swear. I knew he was dangerous, but I didn't know he'd go after you. Not like this." Damien scoffed. "You expect us to believe you weren't feeding him information?" Maya's eyes flashed. "I wasn't feeding him anything. I was tracking him. Someone hired me to find out who he was working with and why he suddenly got brave enough to threaten the Morello organization." Harper trembled. "Someone hired you?" Maya nodded once. "Damien's brother." Damien froze. "My brother is dead," he said flatly. Maya's voice softened. "No, Damien, he isn't." Silence thundered through the room. Damien's breath stilled, his expression turning to something dark, dangerous, wounded. "Maya," he said slowly, "choose your next words carefully." Maya lowered her hands, eyes glistening. "He's alive, and he's the one who put the flash drive in Harper's bag." Harper's knees buckled. Damien's eyes went murderous, and Maya whispered, "He did it because he wants Harper alive." For a long, breathless moment, Damien didn't move. The room felt too small, too quiet, as if the air itself refused to believe what Maya had just said. His brother, dead for 7 years, buried under a closed casket, mourned, avenged. Alive? Harper watched Damien carefully, fear and sympathy twisting inside her chest. She'd seen his rage, his control, his lethal calm. But this was different. His eyes weren't cold now. They were haunted. "Maya," he said, voice low and dangerous, "my brother died in my arms." "I know what you were told," Maya replied softly. "But the truth is different. Your brother survived, barely. Someone pulled him out before the ambulance arrived. Someone who wanted him off the grid." Damien's jaw clenched so hard a tremor ran through his shoulders. "Who?" "I don't know," Maya said. "He never told me, but he came to me last year with a job. Watch Elliot Crane. Track his dealings and protect Harper Lane at all costs." Harper stared at her. "Why me?" Maya hesitated. "Because your name was on a list Damien's brother found. Victims Elliot planned to use or remove. You were marked months before you even realized you were in danger." Harper pressed a hand to her stomach, nausea cresting. "So I was never safe." Maya shook her head. "Not until tonight." Damien stepped toward Maya, fury radiating from him like heat. "If my brother is alive, he should have come to me." "He couldn't," Maya said quietly. "The people who saved him didn't save him for free. He owes them. He's been trapped under their thumb ever since, and protecting Harper was the only way he could send you a message without getting killed." Damien's breath shook, almost imperceptibly. Harper felt something twist inside her at the sight. He wasn't a man easily broken. But this revelation, this betrayal of fate itself, carved a fracture through him. "Where is he now?" Damien demanded. Maya looked down. "I don't know. He went dark 2 weeks ago." "Meaning?" "Meaning," Maya whispered, "he might already be dead again." A metallic groan echoed through the maintenance tunnel outside. Then a scraping sound. More footsteps. Closer, heavier, more deliberate than before. Harper swallowed. "Damien, they found us." He shifted instantly back into the commander she had come to rely on, fury turning into deadly precision. "Maya," he ordered, "can you fight?" "Always." He turned to Harper, cupping her jaw briefly, a grounding touch, a promise. "You stay with me, no matter what." Harper nodded, heart pounding. The footsteps stopped right outside the door, and a familiar voice, smooth, cruel, called out, "Harper Lane, open up. Your boss wants a word." Elliot Crane had found them. Elliot Crane's voice slithered through the crack beneath the door, smooth and polite, so painfully out of place in the dark, grim maintenance room. For years, Harper had heard that same tone in boardrooms, at staff meetings, during performance reviews designed to break her spirit. It was a tone that pretended to care while cutting her piece by piece. But tonight, the mask finally dropped. "Harper," Elliot drawled, "you've caused quite a mess. Open the door and let us clean it up." Harper's hands trembled, but Damien stepped in front of her, gun raised, gaze icy. "He's stalling," Damien muttered. "He doesn't know exactly where we are." Maya moved to the sidewall, ear pressed against the concrete. "3 men with him," she whispered. "Maybe 4. They're armed." Harper felt her throat tighten. He really wants me dead?" Damien turned his head slightly, eyes softening for the briefest second. "He wants control, and you became the one thing he couldn't manipulate." A low chuckle echoed from the hallway, as if Elliot heard everything. "Damien Morello," he called. "Protecting a little assistant? How uncharacteristically noble of you." Damien's jaw flexed. "He knows I'm here." "He was always going to find out," Maya murmured. "Elliot's been watching Harper for months." Harper's breaths quickened. "Months?" Maya swallowed. "He didn't just stumble onto you, Harp. He chose you." Harper's stomach twisted. "Why me?" A second voice, one Harper didn't recognize, answered coldly from the hall. "Because you don't fight back, and people who don't fight back make clean exits." Harper's spine stiffened. Damien saw the shift in her posture, the spark, the very first glimmer of the woman she might become. But there wasn't time to nurture it. The footsteps outside were repositioning, surrounding, preparing. Elliot's voice sharpened. "Harper, darling, don't make this harder. Open the door and I'll make sure your brother doesn't suffer." Harper went white. "No." Damien stepped closer to her, his voice a low promise. "He's bluffing. He doesn't get near your brother." But Elliot continued, enjoying every tremor his words created. "You think Damien can protect him? Protect you? He can't even protect his own blood." Damien froze. Harper felt the air shift around him. Rage, grief, something raw. Elliot laughed softly. "Yes, Damien, I know about your brother, and I know where he is." Maya's eyes widened. "Don't listen, he's playing you." But Elliot pushed harder. "Come out, Harper, or I tell Damian the truth he's never been able to accept." Damian's hand tightened on his weapon. Harper whispered, "What truth?" Elliot leaned against the other side of the door, smiling through his words. "That your death isn't the only one planned tonight." A click sounded, metal against metal. Maya cursed under her breath. "They're setting charges on the door." Damian pulled Harper into his arms, shielding her. "Down," he ordered. And the world exploded. The explosion tore through the door like a thunderclap, a violent burst of heat and metal that sent Harper tumbling backward. Damian wrapped his arms around her, taking the brunt of the blast as debris sprayed into the maintenance room. The impact slammed them both into the concrete floor, dust filling the air like smoke. Harper coughed, ears ringing, vision blurred. For a terrifying second, she couldn't tell if she was alive. "Harper." Damien's voice, rough, strained, cut through the haze. "Stay with me." She blinked until her sight steadied. Damien's body shielded hers completely, his coat torn, blood on his arm. Maya was crouched behind an overturned shelf, already reaching for a fallen weapon. From the ruined doorway, footsteps emerged, slow, confident. Elliot Crane stepped through the settling dust, fixing his cufflinks like he had just arrived for a board meeting instead of detonating a bomb. Behind him, 2 armed men swept the room with cold precision. "Damien," Elliot said smoothly, "I warned you not to interfere." Damien rose to his feet, positioning himself in front of Harper again. "You made a mistake coming here yourself." "Oh, I disagree," Elliot smiled, eyes glinting. "Harper trusts you, Damien, and trust makes people predictable." His gaze slid toward Harper. She always was easy to read. Quiet ones usually are. Harper flinched. Damien didn't. "Touch her," Damien said, "and I end you." Elliot laughed softly. "You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about her. It's about the man who wants her alive." Damien stiffened. "Where is my brother?" he demanded. Elliot tilted his head. "Closer than you think." 2 more men entered. One dragged a limp figure, bound, bruised, barely conscious. Harper choked on a gasp. Damien froze. The man had Damien's jawline, Damien's dark hair, Damien's eyes, weak but alive. Maya whispered, No, they got to him first. Elliot clapped once, amused. Family reunions are so moving. Damien took a step forward, fury radiating off him like heat. Let him go. Or what? Elliot mocked. You'll shoot? You'll fight? You'll try to save 2 people at once? He smirked. You can't. That's why this is fun. Harper's chest tightened. Damien was split, his brother bleeding in one corner, Harper exposed in the other. Elliot had chosen this moment deliberately. Damien's eyes flicked between them, calculating, desperate. Elliot lifted a gun. Choose, Morello. Harper's breath caught. Damien's stare locked onto hers, raw, unguarded, agonizing. Then something in his expression shifted. Resolve, purpose, sacrifice. He moved. Not toward Elliot, not toward Harper, but toward the one thing Elliot never expected him to protect. Everyone expected Damien to run to Harper. Everyone expected him to throw himself in front of Elliot's gun. Everyone expected the cold-hearted Mafia boss to choose the woman he had vowed to protect. But Damien Morello did not move toward Harper. He lunged toward the detonator, a small black device half hidden under debris near Elliot's feet, something no one else had noticed. Damien grabbed it and slammed his thumb against the kill switch, disabling the secondary charges lined throughout the tunnel. Elliot's smug expression shattered. You idiot, Elliot snarled. You weren't supposed to see that. I see everything, Damien growled. Harper gasped as realization hit her like a punch. If Damien hadn't stopped the device, Elliot would have detonated the entire tunnel, killing everyone, including his own men, just to erase evidence and eliminate witnesses. Damien didn't choose Harper or his brother. He chose everyone's survival. Elliot's fury twisted into something rabid. You think that saves you? You think I need explosives to break you? He aimed his gun at Harper again. Damien straightened, stepping between her and the muzzle. You're predictable, Crane. That's what makes you weak. Maya moved swiftly along the wall, retrieving a blade from her boot. The men guarding Damian's brother tightened their grip, dragging the wounded man backward. Elliot smirked. Touch your weapon, Collins, and I shoot Harper first. Try it, Maya said coldly. But Harper, the quiet one, the forgotten one, the one no one had expected to rise, stepped forward. Her voice cracked. Elliot, why me? Why do all this to me? Elliot's eyes lit with pleasure, because hurting her was the part he savored. Because you were convenient, Elliot said. Invisible, the kind of woman no one protects, the kind who breaks easily. Harper shook, anger mixing with fear. You don't know me. Oh, I know exactly what you are, Elliot sneered. A forgettable little... He never finished the sentence. Damian struck with a force that shook the room. He grabbed Elliot's gun arm, slammed him into the wall, and twisted until bone cracked. Elliot screamed, dropping the weapon. Chaos erupted. Maya tackled one guard. Damien's brother staggered free. Harper kicked the falling gun away, heart pounding as gunfire erupted again. But in the middle of the chaos, Elliot, gasping, bleeding, still found a smile. You think this ends with me? He wheezed. You think I'm the only one who wants her dead? Damien pressed him harder against the wall. Speak. Elliot chuckled through the pain. You can't protect her, Morello, because the person funding all of this, his eyes slid toward the exit door, just arrived. The exit door groaned open with a slow, deliberate creak, like the building itself feared who was walking in. Dust swirled under the fluorescent lights as a tall figure stepped into the tunnel, coat pristine, shoes untouched by the grime of the underground. Harper's breath caught. Damien went still. Maya cursed under her breath, because the man who entered wasn't another hired gun. He wasn't one of Elliot's lackeys. He wasn't a shadow moving in someone else's power. He was the power. Vincent Hale, billionaire investor, philanthropist, untouchable, and Elliot Crane's silent partner. But Harper knew him for something far more personal. He was the man who bought out her company's board last month, the man who walked past her in the hallway without ever looking at her, The man who called her the quiet one during a staff meeting, with a smirk she couldn't understand at the time. Now she understood. Vincent stepped inside, applauding slowly. "Impressive, Morello. Truly. I gave Elliot one task, eliminate a loose thread, and somehow you turned my cleanup into a full-scale siege." Damien's stance widened, protective, lethal. "You're the one funding the operation." Vincent smiled. "Of course. Elliot doesn't have the intelligence to run a laundering network. I needed someone who could move money quietly. And Harper Lane, poor, invisible Harper, was ideal." Harper's stomach twisted. "You used me." Vincent raised a brow. "No, I selected you. You were forgettable, predictable, and easily framed." Maya stepped forward, blade ready. "You made a mistake coming down here yourself." "No," Vincent replied calmly. "I made a point." His gaze settled on Harper, not with hatred, with ownership. "You were supposed to disappear tonight," Vincent said. "A robbery gone wrong, a broken girl no one fought for." His eyes slid toward Damien. But then Morello walked into the story. Elliot, still pinned against the wall, groaned weakly. "Vincent, I had it handled." Vincent silenced him with a single glance. "Elliot, you couldn't handle a spreadsheet without Harper's help." Damien tightened his grip on Harper's arm, grounding her. Why target her? She knew nothing. Vincent inhaled slowly, as if savoring the moment. She wasn't the liability. He pointed at the broken man on the ground, Damien's brother. He was. Damien froze. Vincent's voice remained cool, almost bored. "Your brother stole something from me. Data. Evidence. So I planted it on Harper, knowing you'd come for her, and walk straight into my hands." Harper gasped. This whole thing was to get Damien?" Vincent nodded. 2 birds, 1 stone. Maya whispered urgently, "Damien, he has backup coming. We need to move, now." Vincent smirked. "Oh, you don't need to wait." He snapped his fingers. Footsteps thundered from both ends of the tunnel, dozens of them. They're already here. The thunder of boots grew louder, echoing through the tunnel like a drumbeat of doom. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Metal pipes vibrated. The corridor tightened around them, squeezing panic into Harper's lungs. Vincent Hale watched with quiet satisfaction, adjusting the expensive cufflinks that seemed to glow beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. "You see, Damien, the difference between us is simple. You protect. I anticipate." Maya positioned herself beside Harper, shoulders tense, blade ready. "They've brought a small army," she muttered. Damien's brother struggled to stand, eyes dazed. Damien caught him, gripping his arm tightly. "Stay up. Don't fall now." Vincent clicked his tongue. Such touching loyalty. Shame it's wasted. Harper's fear trembled inside her like a storm, but beneath it, something new pulsed. Anger. Betrayal. A rising refusal to be the quiet, breakable girl Vincent believed she was. She stepped forward before she even realized she was moving. "Why involve my brother? He's innocent." Vincent didn't even blink. "Because pain makes you compliant." Harper's voice cracked. "You don't get to decide who I am." Vincent chuckled. "I already did." Damien's voice cut through the tension, sharp, controlled. "Vincent, this ends now." "Oh, it does," Vincent replied, "but not for me." A laser sight dot slid across the wall, landing inches from Harper's shoulder. Maya yanked her down. A sniper. "They're surrounding all exits," Maya hissed. "We're trapped." "No," Damien said softly. "We're cornered, not trapped." There was a difference, and Harper felt herself breathe again because Damien believed it. A sudden metallic bang echoed from deep within the tunnels, farther than Vincent's men had reached. Vincent frowned, turning his head slightly. Maya stiffened. "That wasn't them," she whispered. Another bang, louder, closer. Then voices, rough, armed, familiar. Damien's eyes widened. No, It can't be. From the far end of the corridor, silhouettes emerged. 5, then 10, then 20. But these weren't Vincent's men. These were Damien's. His own soldiers, armed to the teeth, stormed through the tunnel with tactical precision, led by a scarred man with a gravel voice. "Boss," the man called out, "you thought we wouldn't track your phone when you ran off alone?" Relief washed through Damien's features, quick, fleeting, but real. Vincent's expression soured. This wasn't supposed to happen. Damien stepped in front of Harper, posture shifting from defense to dominance. "You made one mistake, Hale," Damien said. Vincent raised a brow. "And what's that?" Damien smiled, a lethal, quiet smile Harper had never seen before. "You underestimated what happens when someone comes for what's mine." The tunnel erupted into chaos as the two armies collided, and Vincent reached for something hidden beneath his coat. The tunnel erupted into a battlefield, echoes of gunfire, metal clashing, boots pounding across concrete. Damien's soldiers surged forward with precision, overpowering Vincent's men in tight, efficient formations. Dust clouded the air, turning everything into a blur of shadows and violence. But amid the chaos, Harper saw it. Vincent Hale slipping through the smoke toward the service ladder, escaping. "Damien!" Harper shouted, pointing. "He's running!" Damien spun, eyes locking on the billionaire disappearing into the lift shaft. Rage sharpened his features. "Stay with Maya," he ordered, before sprinting after him. Harper's instinct screamed to follow, but Maya grabbed her arm. "No, Harper, let him handle this. He could die." "He won't," Maya said, though her own voice trembled. "Not while you're still breathing." Above them, metal groaned. Vincent climbed fast, surprisingly agile for a man who lived in penthouses and boardrooms. Damien followed, muscles tense, moving like a predator reclaiming stolen prey. Halfway up, Vincent glanced down, sneering. "You don't learn, do you, Morello? You're always 10 seconds too late." Damien climbed faster. "Not tonight." Vincent pulled a sleek pistol from the small of his back and fired downward. Metal sparked. Ricochets rang through the shaft. Harper gasped, hands covering her mouth as Damien pressed to the ladder, the bullet missing him by inches. "You can't save everyone," Vincent taunted. "Not your men, not your brother, not that little assistant you pretend you're not falling for." Damien's hand shot up, grabbing Vincent's ankle. The billionaire's arrogance cracked. Damien yanked. Vincent slipped, scrambling for his grip, gun dropping into the darkness below. Don't you dare." "You wanted a war," Damien said, voice cold as steel. "Congratulations, you got one." He pulled Vincent down another rung. Vincent panicked, kicking wildly. "Damien, listen, we can make a deal. Money, power. You walk away with everything." "There's only one thing I want," Damien growled. Vincent's breathing hitched. "Anything, you name it." Damien leaned close enough for Vincent to see the truth in his eyes. Justice. With a final pull, he dragged Vincent downward. They crashed onto a metal platform, Vincent hitting first with a sickening thud. He screamed, clutching his arm, pain finally stripping away the polished facade he wore like armor. Below, Harper trembled. "Damien?" Damien stepped onto the platform, towering over Vincent. "You hurt innocent people. You targeted her. You threatened my family." Vincent spat blood. "I did what was necessary. So will I." Damian pressed a boot to Vincent's chest, pinning him. Vincent choked out a laugh. "He won't kill me. You're not that man anymore." Damian leaned down. "You're right." Relief flickered across Vincent's face until Damian added softly, "But she is." He stepped aside. Harper froze as Vincent's eyes snapped toward her, just as Maya placed a gun in Harper's shaking hand. Harper stood frozen, Maya's gun trembling in her hands. Vincent Hale, the man who orchestrated months of fear, manipulation, and attempted murder, lay sprawled on the metal platform, blood staining his pristine coat. His breathing was ragged. His arrogance was gone. For the first time, his eyes showed something human. Fear. "Harper," Vincent rasped, "you're not a killer." She wasn't. But she wasn't a victim anymore either. Damien stepped beside her, not touching her, but grounding her with his presence. "You don't have to do anything," he told her softly. "Justice doesn't require your hands." But Harper shook her head. Her whole life, men like Vincent decided who she was. Quiet, small, breakable. Someone who could be pushed aside, threatened, used. Not anymore. "You hurt my brother," she whispered. "You tried to kill me. You tried to control my life like it belonged to you." Vincent winced, trying to sit up. I can make it right. Money, protection, whatever you want." "What I want," Harper said, voice steadying, "is my life back." Damien watched her with something like awe, this woman who had walked through fire and somehow come out glowing. Harper lowered the gun. Vincent exhaled in shaky relief, until she added, "And I want you in prison for the rest of yours." Maya moved quickly, snapping cuffs onto Vincent's wrists. "Don't worry," she muttered. "Your friends upstairs are already being rounded up." Damien signaled his men. "Call the FBI contact. He'll take care of the rest." Vincent's eyes widened. No, Damien, you can't." "I'm not killing you," Damien said. "I'm destroying you." As Vincent was dragged away, Harper finally let herself breathe. Her body trembled, but it was release, not fear. For the first time in years, the air didn't feel heavy. Damien turned to her gently. "It's over." Harper shook her head. Not yet. She stepped toward Damien's brother, who sat slumped against the wall. His eyes lifted, soft and grateful. "You're Harper," he whispered. The one he risked everything for." Harper knelt beside him. "You saved me first." Damien helped his brother stand, grief and relief battling across his features. Harper touched Damien's hand. Small, quiet, but full of meaning. "You didn't have to come for me," she murmured. Damien looked at her, his voice a low vow. "I always will." Above them, sirens wailed as federal agents poured into the tunnel. Harper exhaled, a shaky smile forming. "It's finally ending," she whispered. Damien stepped closer, brushing a strand of dust from her cheek. "No," he said softly. "It's finally beginning." So, that's where our story closes tonight. And if you're still here with me, still listening all the way to this moment, then something inside this journey must have touched your heart in a way you didn't expect. Maybe it reminded you of your own battles. Maybe it whispered a truth you've been avoiding. Or maybe it simply made you feel less alone. You know, the Stoics used to say, "The obstacle is the way." And watching Harper rise from fear to strength shows us exactly that. Sometimes life breaks us just enough so we can finally see who we are meant to become. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." But what he didn't say is this: you don't have to endure it alone. Healing begins the moment you decide you deserve better. So if tonight's story stirred something in you, hope, courage, or even a quiet ache, hold on to that. Let it guide you into tomorrow a little braver than today. And now, my wonderful friends, if you felt even a single heartbeat in this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive, and I'm grateful you're here.